on preparing your practice for sale. I hope you don't mind if I've used some poetic license and called it Summer 2015. The sun is actually shining here in Manchester, though I understand in London it's a wee bit chillier today. So my big brother tells me, but then again, perhaps he's getting old and feels the cold. Okay, so welcome to everyone for coming. I appreciate that time is valuable, and my colleague Isaac is with me this afternoon. Some of you may have dealt with Isaac in the past, and hopefully you will be speaking to Isaac in the future after the webinar. Okay, so the fact that that you're here means that you have already decided that you want to sell, or you are starting to think about selling. The selling process is underway. And by the way, if you've got any questions, please do not hesitate to submit them in the panel given, and we'll do our best to answer them either immediately or perhaps later on. We may change some of the information you give us to protect your confidentiality. Is a byword in our business. We understand the sensitivity. So if you call in from Birmingham, we might say you're calling from Bristol. Okay, I've got a question for you. Opening question, let's see what people think. If a buyer comes along now and offers you a 30% premium to the market value for your practice, are you going to grab it and take it and run? Let's see what the answers are. Okay. Right, some interesting stuff coming through here. We've got only 10% are saying no. Quite a lot of yeses and maybes. No, it's interesting that. So, well, if 90% of you haven't said no, that's why you're here this afternoon, because you need to find out what the reasons are why you perhaps should be saying no. There are all sorts of things involved, and remember, it's not just about money when you sell your practice, it's about the bigger picture. And one of the most important things is, of course, making sure your clients are looked after. We are professionals, and that means looking after our clients. Okay, so let's look at crunch question here. A couple of crunch questions. Is your practice attractive to a buyer? Someone walks in today, are they going to turn straight round and walk straight out, or are they going to say, I like the look of this place, it's got a right feel to it, it's vibrant, it feels well run, it feels modern. What about the value of your practice? Are you firing on all cylinders? Perhaps you could do something substantial, perhaps something small, but either way, what you do tweaks things and increases the value by quite a lot. Okay. Now, timing. This is one of the most interesting aspects of selling a practice and getting it ready for sale. The question is, of course, when do you want it to happen? Are there any immovable deadlines? It comes to mind one of the practices we sold a few years ago was where the principal's wife was taking up a teaching position in New Zealand, and obviously school, the term has a starting time, and they couldn't miss it. Unfortunately, it means they have to sell quickly, and it's like selling a house when you've got to move. As the deadline looms, the price begins to wobble. How about the lead time? You know, you might think, fine, I want to be out in a couple of years, my pension's going to kick in. Well, how long is it going to take to get your practice into the right shape, and how much is actually achievable, what needs to be done? And how long will it take to sell? Some practices will walk out the front doors, you might say. Other practices, they're going to take a long time because they might be specialists. On the one hand, a specialist practice might be snapped up by others in that field, but let's say your specialist practice is in a part of the country which is remote. You might be happy working remotely. Perhaps the person who wants to buy you is not happy with that sort of setup and has to meet clients face to face and doesn't want to live where you are. Anything's possible. So don't assume that it's going to be quick. And post-sales commitments, well, after you've done the deal, how long are you going to be tied in for with queries, general helping, being a face to the old clients who want to see a friendly face, a face they recognize. could be 6 months, could be 6 weeks, could be 6 years. Anything is possible, which is the beauty of selling your practice, which we love, is the flexibility and the room for manoeuvre and getting that deal knocked out. Got a question coming in here, Shirley from Burton upon Trent. Good afternoon, Shirley. Shirley wants to know if she wants to sell in 6 months, does she have time to make changes which will maximize the value of her practice? Well, Shirley, good question. I assume that means you want to sell within 6 months, not specifically in 6 months you want to sell. But either way, 6 months could well be enough time to get things knocked into shape. There's some things you'll never change. You know, staff attitudes are quite hard. You know, you get people that are stick in the mud. But there are things, efficiency. Perhaps you can sort out collecting money in a bit faster from clients, getting the books in faster, to do the work more quickly. There's things that can be done in 6 months, of course there are. But we'd only know that if you invited us in for a consultation to have a look at your practice. Okay, when do you want to sell? Well, essentially there's 3 time frames. There's less than a year within a year, which typically would mean 7, 8 months up to 12 months. There's over a year, someone wants to sell, not this year, but next year. And there's now, and now means now. That's why there's 2 exclamation marks there. Typically a now case is obviously going to be a fire sale. We have done these in the past, usually in less happy circumstances for people, illness or bereavement, but it can be done. And obviously the more time you've got, the better price you'll get. Anything to declare? I love this slide here. Gosh, many of you will recall the days of having to go through customs and open your suitcase up. It doesn't happen so much now, open borders and all that. But yes, are there any problems? Don't sweep your problems under the carpet, because unlike selling a car sold as seen, the wheel falls off after you've been handed the money, and it's not your problem anymore. It's not the same when you sell a practice, because there will be comeback sure as day follows night if you have hidden something from the buyer. So being open will work to your advantage. If nothing else, that honesty is always the best policy. It does help build up the rapport that is absolutely essential when it comes to selling your practice. And if your counterparty knows that you're an open person, you're honest, and you're showing things, warts and all, it will be to your advantage. It will not work against you. You don't want to have litigation for misrepresentation. It's costly, it takes up time, and it will stress you no end. And I assume you're selling your practice because you've had enough stress as an accountant. It's a great opportunity, looking over your practice, to analyse where the problems might lie. You may think there's no problems and there's nothing to declare, but step back, look at things, perhaps get a friend in, get a code review, either informally or perhaps formally. Any type of analysis you think could be relevant to look at your practice, SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats, and the gap where your practice should be, where you are, any other yardstick, wherever it is. It could be something simple as getting your staff in on time, getting your staff to stop surfing the internet and sending texts all day long. Now, let's look at some factors to consider which are going to be fundamental to the actual deal. In fact, even before the deal, getting your practice ready, to know what kind of person should be approached to buy your practice. What do you specialise in? Do you specialise in handling the affairs of underwater basket weavers in the northeast of England? It might be very lucrative, but there might not be many people willing to move to the northeast of England, which I think is a lovely part of the country, but it's not for everyone. Fee structuring, how do you charge? Are you overcharging? Are you undercharging? How transparent is your charging? Because some people have got some rather interesting ways of charging their clients. My favourite, of course, is just to make a fixed fee. You estimate it like any professional estimates a job, looks at it, sucking of teeth, sharp intake of breath, and then delivering the knockout blow of what it's going to cost and what you do for the money. A lot of firms are now thinking that way, and for a firm which does think that way and you think that way, you charge that way, it's going to be attractive. firm might look at your firm and say, you know what, I can't understand why the gross fees, the turnover is so low for the number of clients. You're clearly undercharging. He won't tell you that, of course. He'll be thinking it, but it'll make your practice so much more attractive to them. What about looking at the client spread? What's your industry are they in? Are you all sole traders? Do you only do limited companies? I remember one local accountant here who only used to do the accounts of milkmen. Remember milkmen? Yes, going back a few years there. And client base, although we live in a multicultural, multi-ethnic, tolerant society, it is a fact that often you need, if you've got a practice which has a strong ethnic base of clients, you will need someone of the same ethnicity and background to service these clients suitably. It could be something quite simple as they like to speak to you in the mother tongue. If there's many immigrants, people who've come over from somewhere else, they want to speak. The mentality very often is they're still at home, inverted commas, even though their home is here. And they want the buyer to be, again, at home with such a situation. How efficient is your practice? Do you sweat your assets? Yes. What are your assets? Oh, your assets, that's your staff. Are you charging them out properly? Are you getting the right, is the right work going to the right staff members? Or is someone doing bookkeeping who is heavily overqualified? And one final question on this page. Is the cobbler going barefoot? Yes, we know the true saying is are the cobbler's children going barefoot, but wasn't enough space to type it out. How are your accounts? Do they tell a nice story? How much cash have you been taking under the table? Is everything declared? Are your books up to date? Or do they paint a bad picture? Okay, now it's time for the second of our questions. Okay, hand on heart, okay, do you know both? Do you know both your gross recurring fees and the number of clients you've got? Okay, it's both of them. Let's see the answers here. See if it's in line with what we normally get coming in out of the answers. 10% of you are embarrassed. Well, I thought it would be a wee bit higher than that, but yes, there are quite a few people embarrassed who got almost 3/4 of you know the answer to both these questions. Now that I'm surprised. It's a bit higher than usual. So that means you've got your hand on the tiller firmly, you're in control, you know what's going on in your practice. That's a good sign. It means you don't have too much work to do to get that practice sold, by the sound of it anyway. Let's look now at some other factors to consider. Get important things. How much money does your practice owe? Are you in onerous leases for software, hardware? Because the buyer might want to shut your practice down in the physical sense and merge it with theirs, because it might just be down the road. How much money is owed to you? Are you actually collecting your debts from your clients? Are you funding their lifestyle and their business? What about your hardware, your software? Is it up to date? Or is it last century? Staff hierarchy. How many staff have you got to have the right level of qualification? Are you overqualified with your staff? Are you underqualified? Are they overpaid? Are they underpaid? Overheads. Building. Who owns a building? How about the lease? If you own your own building, you could take the building out of the deal and charge a rent as well as selling the practice, so you have a nice income on the side from the building. The lease again, can the lease be broken? The buyer might want to shut you down and move 100 yards down the road and amalgamate your practice with theirs. But if you've got to keep the lease running for several years, it's better you know about it and you have this addressed at the outset. And non-fee earners. How many non-fee earners have you got? Have you got too many? How are the overheads recovered? And what's the standard of your work? That speaks volumes about your staff and how your oversight. Are your working papers good? Can someone pick them up and navigate them? Or does it look like a doctor's handwriting on the prescription? Okay, and the last one on this page is work in progress in terms of accounts and the bookkeeping work you do for people. How much is ongoing? How much is what's the value of half-finished jobs if someone has to take them over? I've got a question coming in now, Tony from Glossop. Good afternoon, Tony. I bet it's lovely out in Glossop there in the foothills of the Peak District in this nice weather. Tony is asking, is it good practice to let bad clients go before I sell? Well, why are these clients bad? Are they not paying? They're not paying. Put the fees up. Do they drive you mad? Put the fees up. That will flush them out soon enough. You don't want bad feeling, that's very important. Now, you might have a bad client who's bad because you think his business is somewhat dodgy, shall we say, what he gets up to. I'd like to think you're on top of these sorts of things. But yeah, sometimes you have to take a view on getting rid of bad clients, but it is a last resort, because really you should be able to work with your clients and get them to work the way you want to work. Another question coming in, gosh, we are busy today. Jacob from Hastings. Jacob, good afternoon down in Hastings there. It's a clear day, no doubt you can see France. Jacob wants to know, if I want to sell to a staff member, do I take the same steps, and can you help me structure a deal? Well, we can certainly help you structure a deal, and I'm almost certain you'll get a better deal out of using an agent like a broker like ourselves than dealing direct with a member of staff. Remember, it's worth mentioning at this point why you use a broker. Brokers, they're emotionally detached from the situation, so can stand back, see things a wee bit differently. And should you sell to staff members? Selling to staff members is a great idea, because they know the clients, they've got the continuity, and as far as the clients in the outside world are concerned, you've made them a partner. No one needs to know that anything necessarily has changed hands, and of course a staff member will probably pay you better money, because for them it's a golden opportunity, and to buy new business and all the unknowns can be quite challenging. So working with the broker, says the next screen. Sorry, it came on a wee bit earlier than it should have done, but working with the broker, okay, the first thing, to register the broker, it's not like just walking in and saying, I want to sell my practice, hey presto, we pull a name out of the hat and make the match. The broker wants to get to know, we want to get to know you, to get under the skin, understand your practice, and by the same token, when it comes to the buyers are registered with us, they're pre-vetted, there's no tire kickers with us. And of course, if you try and avoid using a broker, you'll get all the freeloaders and tire kickers who are just out to look for a bargain and drive you mad, because they know the brokers, are gatekeepers. The broker will discuss the issue we will discuss an issue with you, a known issue with you, your practice, any problems will work out through a comprehensive practice review, how to deal with the issues. We'll flag issues which you may not be aware of. We'll ensure your books and accounts are up to date, including a part-year management account, so the potential buyer can see that the story stacks up. And of course, we will make sure that we are available for you, and you'll have to be available for us throughout the negotiations. Once you start with us and the deal is in play, we're open day or night by mobile phone. You'll have a dedicated consultant. Remember, if we don't do the deal, we don't get paid, and we go hungry. And we don't like going hungry, and we pride ourselves on getting deals even in the most difficult and unusual situations. And finally, if a problem arises that breaks the deal, don't panic. Sometimes it's just beyond, it's beyond your control, but you'll know that when the next deal comes along, if it was something which can be addressed, you'll be shipshape and in the best hands to prevent a recurrence. Okay, I think that takes us to the end of the webinar. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll stay live just for a wee bit longer. Any questions come through, you're welcome, of course, to send a question through to us now. I'll deal with it afterwards. Question coming through here. It's anonymous. Okay, hello anonymous. I have approached a friend on the golf course to sell, but the deal is stalling. Can you offer consultancy to help? Oh, there's a name coming through. How? Not yet. Yes, the name person has come out. It's Yvonne. Hello, Yvonne. Yes, Yvonne, we can help you out with the consultancy. We do get called in to fix the problems which have been created either by others or just have happened because a broker wasn't used. Yeah, very often you'll find that when you reach an impasse, you bring in the so-called third-party honest broker. We'll get things unjammed, and we'll get that deal done for you. In the meantime, enjoy the golfing, and don't take your mind off the practice too much. We'll wait to get your call. Thank you very much, everyone. No more questions coming through. As I say, my name's Norman. My colleague Isaac will be in touch with all of you to see how we can help you, because I can assure you there'll be something there we can do to help you. It's an obligation chat. He'll be calling you up. And again, if you want to preempt it, call him first before he's busy with other people. Lift the phone now. The number's on the screen, 0800 2800 321. Or you can email to isaac@maximity.co.uk. Thank you very much and enjoy this beautiful evening. Bye-bye.